Howdy, folks. Greyhawk 4x4 coming at you again, your resident vintage gamer, and it is Easter Sunday. So happy Easter. And I don't know if there's going to be a lot of people that show up today because it is Easter. So we will stay live for a while and see if anybody pops in. We'll talk about some gaming news. We got a little show and tell deal here to go through. I hope everybody that celebrates Easter out there, I hope they're having a good one. My wife always fixes a traditional, Easter dinner and all that. So got that to look forward to. And we do have, I had a list here. We have a fairly decent list of gaming news topics to talk about. So give it a little bit of time, see if anybody pops in. This may only be like half an hour. If I don't get anybody in here, I might just go through the gaming, just do it as a gaming news video and do the show and tell thing and be done with it. But I had no idea what the turnout would be because of it being Easter. A lot of people are probably with their kids doing Easter egg hunts and going to brunch and all that good stuff. So we'll just hang out and see what happens. Had some interesting developments with the campaign back here this past session on hello. I always is it pronounced Terge or is it Terrier? 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 Terge? Trying to figure out which one it is. So let's start with the gaming news stuff. So let's start with the tabletop RPG stuff first. TJ's easier. Okay, got it. I actually have basically a step niece, not step niece, but I guess you'd call her is one of my best friends' niece, so I call her my niece too. Her name's TJ, so that's easy to remember. So tabletop RPG stuff. So Wizards of the Coast has done a couple different things. Number one, they bought D&D Beyond, which I was, along with some other people apparently, were already under the impression that was already theirs. I thought it was theirs the whole time. I had no idea that it was owned separately. So they just bought D&D Beyond. I don't know what that's going to do for, because that's the official like D&D digital, where you can buy all the books digital and all that stuff, right? So some people are saying, well, are they going after Roll20? Like, are they going to do their own virtual tabletop situation to compete with Roll20? There's other ones out there. There's, was it Fantasy Grounds? And then here's the thing that intrigues me about the timing of this. We all know Joe Manganiello is a big D&D player, and he was on Critical Role and all that. And he has launched let's go here to the news here. He has launched a Kickstarter. I think it's called, is it Arcane or Arcan? Let's see here. Well, whoever typed this, boy, they screwed his name up good. They missed him. They really misspelled it big time. Let's see here. Trying to find the Kickstarter. Joe Manganiello's Arcana brings augmented reality to RPGs. So there is a Kickstarter for this new project called Arcana. And hey, Chupa. Chupa says hello all. I have the wife watching today. Well, hello, Chupa's wife. I don't know your name, so I'll just say Chupa's wife. So this Arcana project that Joe Manganiello is doing is going to be another virtual tabletop situation. Now, the differences from what I see on the Kickstarter is this one's going to be full 3D. So you log in, like right now, you log into Roll20, and it's a top-down view of the tabletop grids and all that. And then the DM in Roll20 can put minis on the map and monsters and draw it out and import regular maps and all that stuff. Hey, Bipedal. The difference with this Arcana project, this Kickstarter that he's doing, and I'm pretty sure it's already funded. Let me make sure of that. But I think it funded like pretty fast. So let's see. Let's see if I can find it here. Of course, they don't give me a link to the Kickstarter, right? Let's see here. Here we go. So let's try and find a link. If not, I'm just going to go to Kickstarter myself. And here it is. Okay. So its initial goal was $50,000 for this Kickstarter, and they've already hit 300,000, over 300,000. And they have 14 days to go still. So this one is going to be, so basically it's showing, the video is showing people with their tablets, and they're sitting around a table, but rather than play on the table with minis and all that, they're all using their tablets. So it's a different situation. You could do it virtually if you're not in together, obviously, but in this picture here, they're all sitting around a table doing it on their tablets. So it's a different project, but I think that it was interesting, the timing that Wizards of the Coast bought D&D Beyond like a week after that. Now, they would have had to have already been in talks to like make that purchase and all that, but it just seemed kind of coincidental that they bought out D&D Beyond after Joe announced his Kickstarter for this new augmented reality D&D thing. And of course they're on, Wizards and Joe Manganiello get along great. There's no animosity there or whatever. But Wizards of the Coast is still business. Hasbro is still a business. So they got to be looking at this virtual tabletop augmented reality space for sales, and they see Roll20 and they see Fantasy Grounds, and now you got this new one by Joe Manganiello. And now they bought D&D Beyond. So are they going to take the D&D Beyond space? Are they going to take that and then add some type of virtual tabletop situation to that? It's all speculation, but you can see where that's all going. I know a lot of people that have chimed in here in the past have said they love playing on a virtual tabletop where they don't have to, go into someone's house. They can just log in and do it through Roll20 or whatever. So, we prefer being at the table. That's just us. We prefer to be able to have adult beverages and shoot the shit and all that kind of stuff, and basically have a social experience and play D&D at the same time, have food, whatever. But a lot of people like to do it virtual. So those of you that are in here, what about you guys that do play D&D? Do you prefer being at the table, or are you prefer the virtual situation now with Roll20, Fantasy Grounds, and that type of stuff? So that was the first bit of gaming news that hit, and then they just announced that there's going to be last year. Remember, they did D&D Direct, which was basically like a kind of like D&D's version of E3, where they have, and they do it all on Twitch and on YouTube, etc. And they basically talk about everything D&D, and it's planned for the 21st. Today is the 17th, and it says here that it's going to be April 21st at 9 a.m. Pacific time, 5 p.m. BST. I don't know what BST is, but I'm assuming that's got to be over in Europe somewhere. So that, and they're going to go through basically everything that's like what's happening with D&D with the franchise, and then what I'm guessing they're going to talk about what's going to be happening the next year or so, what type of releases. They'll probably talk about the D&D Beyond being that they merged or bought them or whatever. So if that's something that you guys enjoy, it's going to be the 21st at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So Chupa says, yeah, I'm totally about sitting around the table chucking real dice. I can see the use through though with COVID and whatnot. Oh, it was invaluable for my group during COVID. I mean, having Roll20 was a godsend, because for months we did everything on Roll20. But as soon as and it was kind of funny, because after we all got our initial vaccinations, because everybody's vaccinated, so we all got our initial vaccinations, waited to 2 weeks after that, and then we went back to the table. And then, like, I forget how long it was, then everything went ape shit again with, I forget if it was Delta, whatever variant it was. When everything went ape shit again and spiked like crazy, we went back to Roll20. And then we were on Roll20 here up until probably 4 weeks ago. And then we, because everybody got their boosters and the numbers started coming down and everything seemed to be under control, now we're back at the table again. So having that flexibility has been awesome. So I'm not going to ever say anything foul about Roll20 or any of the other virtual tabletops out there. I think they do a great service. Were there bugs with Roll20? Of course there's bugs. And I don't know about the other ones, but there's bugs with Roll20, but nothing you can't get past, So TJ says, luckily COVID is not a thing in Norway anymore. Yeah, it's very, very minor now here where we are in Utah, but in the United States as a whole, numbers are starting to go back up with these BA221-1, whatever these new variants are, stuff starting to go back up again. So I don't know that we're ever going to not have COVID around. It'd be nice to get it to an endemic state where we just get a yearly shot like we do for the flu. That would be ideal. So hopefully that's going to happen sooner than later. So, but anyway, so that's what's going on with the D&D stuff. They bought out D&D Beyond, and they're having their D&D Direct on the 21st. Now, I was reading something about The Witcher 3 is supposed to be having a what do you call it? A remaster version. If I can find that. It's the NextGen update. So they made an announcement that there was supposed to be a Witcher 3 NextGen with ray tracing, and I guess updated for the next generation consoles, and all that. And the announcement was that it is no longer in development. So apparently there was going to be, I didn't know that they were even working on, or that it had been announced at one point back in the day that they were going to do a remastered version they're calling it NextGen. And it basically says here Witcher 3 NextGen delayed indefinitely. So I don't know how people feel about that. I don't get hung up too much on graphics and all that. Don't get me wrong. I love my high-end graphics. I love ray tracing. I love all that stuff. But I've never let it dictate which games I play or don't play. I go by the gameplay, the story, the mechanics, and all that, and graphics comes afterwards. So this particular story does not bother me. Other people, maybe in here even, they might, be upset about that. But anyway, so if you were waiting for a next gen version of Witcher 3, apparently it's indefinitely on hold. So I did see that they said that they also consider that Cyberpunk 2077 is basically fixed. They're saying with all the patches that they've done now, they're calling it fixed. I haven't played it in a while, so I couldn't tell you if it is actually or not. But TJ says graphics only should rarely be the selling point for any game. I agree. So Lapis says still might get it before next new Elder Scrolls. That's the next big game I can't wait for. Yeah, Starfield and then Elder Scrolls. Starfield, I'm looking forward to, just because if they do it as well as something like New Vegas, or, in my opinion, Fallout 4. I loved Fallout 4. I loved Skyrim. So if they do it on that level, Starfield, I'll love it. And then Elder Scrolls 6, which who knows how long it'll be before that. And I want Fallout 5. I'm already chomping a bit, but who knows how many years that is away, But then there was an announcement by the people that make, I forget, is it Hello Games? I can't remember. That makes No Man's Sky. As you know, they've been pumping out like regular content updates since they launched it, and it had the fiasco of not living up to the expectations and all that. And then they've been doing free content upgrades like nonstop. Like every few months, they're just coming out with another big update and everything else. Well, they just launched another one, and now you get to be a smuggler. You get to be basically Han Solo in No Man's Sky. And so that was another story that came out that was pretty big, because everybody that plays No Man's Sky now, if you go and look at the reviews and everything, they say it's fantastic now. Yes, it had its problems when it launched and everything, but they have certainly been pumping out the content to make it better. And now you can be a full-on smuggler in the game. So if I didn't think that would consume my life, if I was to get into No Man's Sky, because it sounds like it's such a big scope game now. Well, it always was, but with everything they've added now, you could just get lost in that game for weeks, So Lapis says No Man's Sky has the best redemption arc for a game in recent years. I would 100% agree with that. Absolutely. There was Arkham Knight. If you remember Arkham Knight of the Batman series, if you remember, Arkham Knight, when it first launched, it was so bad that they had to pull it from all the stores. They had to pull it from the digital stores. And then they had to fix it. And then they relaunched it, and they fixed everything. So that had a redemption arc as well. I don't think that it's anything close to what they've done with No Man's Sky. But that was another colossal fuck up, was Arkham Knight. If you remember, that was the first game they ever pulled from Steam because of review bomb. It wasn't necessarily review bombing that was unwarranted. It was warranted. So they had so many people returning because that was right after Steam instituted its refund policy, which basically said if you don't play it for X amount of less than X amount of hours, and you haven't had it for you haven't had it less than X amount of days, you can just return it for no. You don't have to even give a reason. You just get your money back. And everybody was doing that, and so they ended up just pulling it off the stores. And then if you go back now, of course, it's much better reviewed now. So that was another one that had a good redemption arc. So so let's see. Let's do another gaming to check for some gaming news here and see if there's anything else that I missed. Blizzard is polling interest in NFTs and quote play to earn games. I don't. I do not. I don't have a good feeling about any cryptocurrency NFTs, and I certainly don't want it in my video games. So, yeah. Let's see. Here's something from Kotaku. Crypto gaming landlords upset they can't keep exploiting all the players quitting. Exploited players are rebelling against diminishing returns in the Pokemon-like NFT game Axel Infinity. See, yeah, it's I don't see that ever being a real thing, a real viable thing. Just knowing how gamers are, and gamers have high expectations on everything. Sometimes to a point of absurdity that they, when I say that, what I mean is in like MMOs, when I say that gamers have even had an absurd level of expectation, anybody that's ever played MMOs, like really put time into MMOs, knows what I'm talking about when I say the expectation on hardcore players in MMOs is so unrealistic, it's ridiculous. They want content produced faster than is humanly possible, because the players chew through it so fast, and then they get bored because it's like a fucking speed race to get to end game, and then chew through all the end game, and then they expect the developers to be able to somehow on a 24/7 365 hamster wheel pump out content, and it gets to a point of absurdity. So now that's not nearly all gamers. That's a specific niche of type of player type. But when you talk about expectations, that when I say absurdity, that's what I'm talking about. So given that, the idea of cryptocurrency and NFTs being part of gameplay and rewards and all that other stuff, no, I don't see it ever working. Because the players are going to expect more of a return on their investment of time and money than the companies that are going to profit off of it are willing to give up. Right? It's all about, because for the companies that are producing them, it's all about profit. And players are going to have higher expectations of return on investment for time and money than the companies are going to be willing to give up. So there's an impasse there. I don't see it ever being a thing. So they'll try. They'll keep trying this bullshit, but I don't see it ever being a true thing. But so I think that's it on the gaming news. I think I don't see any other big stories that hit. Let's see. Yeah, I think that's it. So let's move on. See you, TJ. So I grabbed this off the shelf. This is the Forgotten Realms Ruins of Zento Keep. And I never experienced Zento Keep in a tabletop campaign. I experienced it in Lapis says, yeah, imagine all the problems we have with bots and gold sellers and MMOs, and then add real money crypto stuff to the mix. Yeah, it's a recipe for corruptness, and yeah, I just don't see it happening. But they're gonna keep trying. But I did go to Zento Keep in the original gold box games, the D&D gold box games like Pool of Radiance, and Zento Keep is in that series. I don't know which game it first shows up in there, but here's the back. So yeah, that ring light I bought, I did buy a cheap ring light, and it's not worth a shit. So I'm gonna have to buy invest in a better one. But it basically says this campaign expansion has a 128-page source book detailing old and new Zento Keep, the history of the city, the sinister black network, and important villains. A 64-page adventure book with 3 new perilous adventures that takes heroes into Zento Keep under it and to nearby communities. A monstrous compendium appendix containing 16 new creatures, 3 poster maps depicting old Zento Keep, the new Zento Keep, and the activities of the malevolent Zentarum. 8 cards describing areas containing some of the most nefarious NPCs and monsters ever to be associated with Zento Keep. If I remember correctly, like from the gold box games, and it shows here, this skeleton here. Zento Keep, if I remember correctly, was just full of undead. It was like an undead, like bazaar. But we'll go through this stuff here. See, I'm not going to unfold these. We've already seen that when I try to unfold maps on lives, I end up ripping them. So we're not going to unfold them, but here they are. There's the Moon Sea. So if you know Forgotten Realms, you're very familiar with the Moon Sea and all that. There's another one. This looks like this might be the new Zento Keep. Here's the campaign book. There's some cool artwork there. I like that. And again, I didn't DM Forgotten Realms, so if I ever did decide to do a Forgotten Realms campaign, I've got plenty of source material to go through, I've got tons of box sets and stuff back there to go through. So here's the adventure book. Basically the same artwork from the cover. Let's see here. So this basically has the adventures in it. And it looks like it even has there's some more artwork for it. It has some pre-generated characters in it. So then you had, these are the 8 cards. So it has like these handouts to the players as they probably explore that the DM can hand out. Oh, so and then like here's this. So this is like the secret temple, it says. And it has on the back, it tells you all about it. That's kind of handy. So those might actually be more for the DM. That's going to show up there, but but there's a whole bunch of these. There's a bunch of symbols that it has. So it's a cool box set. I mean, they've got it well organized. And then you've got the Monsters Compendium here. This is called the Bane Dead. That's just one example there. More, of course, more undead. Burn Bones and Bane Lich. Wow. Yeah, definitely all undead stuff. So that is the Zento Keep box set. I don't know how many of you have played the old edition of, second edition or first edition Forgotten Realms. When I say first edition Forgotten Realms, I don't mean that they produced anything Forgotten Realms for first edition, because they didn't. What I mean is a DM using first edition rules to do a Forgotten Realms campaign is what I mean by that. I'm surprised there weren't any comments or questions about that. You guys usually are pretty happy to see the box sets and stuff. All right, let's see. I don't have. So we did have an interesting. What's the word? We had interesting developments that happened in our campaign back here on Friday. I'll do a separate update video, as usual. But let's just say that one of the party members, who's also a DM, Niels, he came up with a unique idea for what we're going to do starting next week, or this coming up Friday, because there's two different quests that came up, one going one direction and one going another direction. One of them, if you've been following along, there's Lady Harrowmore's daughter Violet that we've been trying to find to rescue her and bring her back to her. We ended up going and talking to her, to Lady Harrowmore, and basically saying, "Hey, we've looked, we're still trying, but we haven't been able to find her." And so we got some additional information, some additional assistance, and so forth to go back again to try and find her. But then separately, our magic user and our Moss Dwarf, they got a separate quest to go to the north to investigate some stuff. So what we're going to do is, and Niels was the one that came up with this idea, is that Randy Midnight's, the person who plays Randy Midnight, Brad, he has a new character, Gooch, because Randy Midnight was killed. So Gooch and I are going to go back to try and find Violet, and the magic user and the Moss Dwarf are going to go on this other quest. And what we decided to do was, based upon Neil's suggestion, was we're going to play our regular characters on our quest. Those two that have the Moss Dwarf and the magic user are going to roll separate characters that are going to accompany us on that quest. And then on their quest going to the north, they're going to play their regular characters, the Moss Dwarf and the magic user. And me and Brad are going to roll new characters for that part of the campaign. So it's a unique dynamic that we're going to do, so that they can follow their quest and we can follow our quest, and everybody can still play. So, and then I'm assuming that if both of us finish our quests and come back and everything, the extra characters could become NPCs, perhaps. Don't know. But that is the new dynamic that we're going to try. I've never in my 40 plus years of playing ever done a truncated, campaign like that, but it's a wild thought. So, hey, Proudfoot Underhill is here. How you doing, Proudfoot? So I'll go into more detail about what led up to that and all that. Go into a little bit more detail of when I do my campaign update. But I just thought, as a topic of conversation here, we could, if you wanted to, we could talk about that whole dynamic of doing that differently. I've never done it that way before. For me, that was completely wild and unique. So let's see if I can move this over here and I get some more light that way. There we go. All righty. So I am going to be, we'll probably stop this at, we're at 35. We'll probably stop it at 45 minutes, because it is Easter and I'm going to go have Easter with the wife and all that. So, and you guys are probably going to do the same. So, anything else anybody wants to talk about? Any other? I didn't check to see if there is a Steam sale, sometimes they'll just drop a 1-day sale on stuff. Like today's Easter, so maybe they dropped a Easter sale. Maybe, let's see. It looks like they just got their regular publisher sale going on right now. Up to 90% off the publisher Frontier. I don't know what kind of games they put out. Oh, they do the Jurassic games. Interesting. And I've never played. The only Jurassic Park game I ever played was right after the movie came out, and they had Jurassic Park, the cartridge game on the Sega console, and I still have it. But yeah, all these other ones, Jurassic World Evolution, Elite Danger, they do Elite Dangerous. Let's see. So it looks like if any of you guys like any of the stuff they do Planet Coaster, Back to the Future, the Munsters. That's all, it looks like all DLC stuff. Planet Zoo. They got a pretty decent sale on Steam if you guys like any of that stuff. So I was hoping they might have like a spring sale drop today on Steam, but doesn't look like it. So let's see here. Lapis says, when you run from a source book or campaign book, do you try to stick to it pretty close or just invent stuff aligned with the book? So I generally in the past have tried to stick close to the book. So we're doing in my campaign when I was DMing, we were doing the Against the Giants camp. We did G1 and we were getting ready to start G2. And I tried to do everything by the book, and that bit me in the ass. It's the first time it's really ever bit me in the ass. Because I do believe that Gary Gygax, who wrote them, was way too generous with magic items and gold and loot and everything. And it ended up making the player characters overpowered. So they're ridiculously overpowered now. So that kind of bit me in the ass. If to do it over again and going forward, I will certainly temper what it is in the source books and everything based upon the players at the table, the characters that the players are playing, and their level of power, as to because if they get too overpowered and they can just cruise through everything, there's no challenge to the game. I don't think it's fun for anybody. And they were at that point where they were just mowing through everything. So, yeah, that has bit me in the ass trying to go exactly by what the book says. That this loot. There's a prime example in that G1. There's a room full of wine, of expensive, really expensive wine, that was given as a gift, I think, to the Giants or something like that, if I remember correctly. The bottom line is there was a ridiculous amount of it, and it was ridiculously, if you went by what the book said, ridiculously valuable. And they came up with a logical way to transport all of that shit back to the city, and they were instantly vastly wealthy. I mean, vastly wealthy. And if I had to do it over again, there's no way that I would have allowed that. I would have changed the value, reduced it significantly of the value of that wine. That's just one example. That's just one. That's probably the worst example. And so a lot of that's on me. I should have tempered it, but I was wanting to do everything by the book. So that's a good question. That's a great question, Lapis. There's an upside and there's a downside. The upside is that you can rely on the source book, the module, whatever it is, to provide all your content, where you're not having to sit down and create stuff. It's all right there for you, ready to go. The downside is what happened to me. So, yeah, I don't know if this. I'm assuming that answers your question. I hope it does. So going forward, yeah, I would certainly do it a little differently. The first time I ran that campaign 30 years ago or whatever it was now, or 25 years ago, whatever it was, I didn't run into that kind of situation as bad. So, but you learn as you go. Even after doing this shit for 40 years, you're always learning as a DM. You're learning as a player. Always. That's what makes the game so great. So, yeah. So now, and I do a mix in my campaign of pre-generate like modules, like Temple of Elemental Evil, the Giant series. They've gone through the Temple of they have never finished it because it's ginormous, but they've gone through quite a bit of the Temple of Elemental Evil. Then they moved on to the Giants and everything. There's all that, but then separately there was a lot of content that I created myself. There was the whole cult down at the volcano down in the southern part of the Flanness. That was all me. I created all that, and then there was the whole thing of the Shade, the entity, the Shade. That the business. I call it the business of the Shade. That whole thing. I created all that content, and then all the NPCs and everything in Devers, Greyhawk, all the other cities. Cloche, who's basically my Volo type character. All that I create all that stuff. So I do a mix basically, and I think it works. I like having that mix, and pretty much everybody that DMs at our table, the three of us. Niels hasn't DM'd a D&D campaign here yet. He might at some point, but the three of us that have, I think we all do the same thing. Brad might do. I think Brad's is all him. I don't think he uses any pre-generated stuff. I think everything Brad, when he DMs, I think that's all his content. I believe. But Jonathan and I do a mix kind of. So, all right, guys. Well, that's enough of a live for me. If anybody else has anything they want to talk about, let's get it out and let's have a good Sunday. After, otherwise, I'm gonna eat a ridiculous amount of ham today. That's what I'm gonna do. I don't know if you guys are if any of you guys are having Easter dinner. It depends upon whether or not you celebrate or whatnot. But Easter is always ham for us. So we've got ham, and my wife cooks everything. She's a great cook. So ham, roasted potatoes, seasoned roasted potatoes, and then she's doing like a squash au gratin thing with like zucchini and squash, and doing it as an au gratin in the oven or whatever. She's doing that, and yeah, it's gonna be as they say, off the chain. So, okay, guys. Any last minute questions, comments, insults, compliments, anything? Otherwise, our Lapis says our tradition is ham, potato salad, and deviled eggs. Not all good choices. All good choices. Yeah. She was gonna make deviled eggs, but it's just the two of us, and we're like, well, probably a little bit too much food for just the two of us, so we're just going with the basics. So she usually does like deviled eggs for sure, like around 4th of July. That's absolutely without question. That's, you got to have that. So, and I don't think we didn't buy a lot of chocolate or anything. Now that I think about it, we did buy a pie. Matter of fact, I got to take that out of the fridge. That's got to defrost. But other than that, all right, guys. Have a good Easter. Have a good Sunday. Whatever. We will be doing a campaign update probably tomorrow, where I'll go through all that, and then we'll get back on schedule, regular schedule after that. And hopefully a spring Steam sale drops at some point. That would be nice too. So don't forget D&D Live or whatever that thing is called. D&D Direct is going to be on the 21st, which today's the 17th. So 21st is Thursday. They're doing it on Thursday. So, okay, guys, have a good one, and we will catch you on the flip side.